I could pay money to their subscription services and still output a beat with Honorable C Note's tag in it. So if I drop that song, Honorable C Note's legal team comes after me and I'm in trouble. Can they just put that little piece in there and say, you know what, we're not responsible?
Yeah, well, that's what they're going to say, right? And that's why we're taking an issue with some of these terms of services just being super unreasonable.
I know a lot of people leave comments saying this deserves more views. Look, I'm not going to argue with you. I just appreciate the support. Some of you are leaving super thanks, which really helps me, but you can help me in free ways too. If you just subscribe, if you like the video, if you leave a comment, all of that helps me quite a bit. And if you really want to be super supportive, then share the video as well. That helps, I think, more than anything. I know you made a video about AI. Admittedly, I didn't watch it, but I believe you referenced Sync My Music's video. He was finding Suno's output to include blatantly copyrighted material. So in a nutshell, what his video found was that given some pretty innocent prompts, the Suno platform would output beats with copyrighted producer tags, including Cash Money AP, including Honorable C Note, including Take a Day Trip, including a few other pretty popular producers. What were your initial reactions from a legal standpoint of seeing those outputs?
Yeah, he's been doing a real good job, and his videos are great of kind of tracking this, because before Suno, I think it was Udio that he did, but similar kind of thing. And he's like, hey, like one of my users kind of alerted to me to this glitch, we'll call it right now. This is a glitch, and we're like putting in prompts, and we're getting Mariah Carey's Christmas songs like as if it was a cover. You know what I'm saying? In the production and just everything. And so he ended up getting actually quoted. There was a big lawsuit by the major labels, Universal, Warner, Sony, and their subsidiaries, so their imprint labels. So everyone's come together. Everyone's pissed. And they're suing the two biggest platforms, which are Suno and Udio. And anyway, so he got actually quoted in the lawsuit, which was, fun, just as an example of they cited thousands of different examples of this copyright derivatives. So if something is made that was based on something else, it's called a derivative work. So that's what they're claiming. They're saying it's not sampling, it's not taking literally the sounds, the voices, and that kind of thing, but they're saying that music AI is imitating, and you can't imitate. You can't just go and regurgitate her Christmas song and be like, it's a brand new thing. And so they go beyond that issue. The problem is that these platforms have not disclosed where they learned this music from. And they're like, we think they just went into Spotify or wherever, downloaded copies of these songs, trained their AI, and here we are today.
So then my question, this is getting into the legal weeds, but as a layman and who never went to law school a day in his life, when I hear the Cash Money AP tag come out of Suno's output, and it's the same voice, it's the same cadence, it's the same tone, the effects are the same on it, it sounds like a sample. I've been cussed out by AI bros on Twitter who claim I'm a moron. I have no idea how the AI systems work. And I may very well be a moron, and I damn sure don't know how the AI systems work. I'm not a programmer. However, from where I stand, that is a sample. I mean, it's not, I guess a sample would mean they're actually taking an audio file of the Cash Money AP tag and just passing it right through their AI algorithm such that there's a one-to-one input to output. And what they're saying is, no, that doesn't happen. It's being recreated, whatever. I kind of don't give a fuck, to put it plainly, because the output is ultimately the same. As a producer, I can't go out and replay a Rick James song and have it sound exactly the same as the Rick James song and say, hey, I didn't infringe on anyone's copyright. Clearly I did. And it's so egregiously blatant that there's no way I wouldn't have to take legal accountability for me stealing from whoever owns copyrights to that Rick James song. It seems like with AI, they have this weird plausible deniability where they say, well, we didn't make that, the system did. But it's like, you programmed the system, so what's really going on here?
Yeah, so really good points, and I agree with you. So we did a little roundtable with Ben Jordan. So we did an interview, and he's one of the founders of Voice Swap, which is a music AI. And I go, I'm going to dig into this because I go, we're curious about how this works. And it's funny because he mentioned he went on Suno, and he was trying to replicate music like his, and he's like, it was just basically exactly as if someone had just recreated it. So he goes, there's that. But then the likeness imitation, which we'll call it, right? So is it really Rick James's voice? Maybe, maybe not. Or is it just, again, the imitation issue? It's not supposed to be doing that. And that's what these companies have come out and said. They go, we have put together such, strong filters to make sure that it doesn't do this stuff. So is it just a glitch? But it doesn't matter. It's happening, right? So
and it's being replicated more than twice, more than 3 times.
Right, thousands of times, according to these lawsuits. So as far as, what exactly is happening, the biggest issue is, well, if, wherever it's getting it from pre-existing stuff, and we can hear that. And the problem is that you didn't license the right to use your tech to study off of our stuff. And so I think setting aside the copyright infringement, there's just like the business thing. You have made a lot of music in your day. I made a lot of music. If, people go and take our stuff and learn from it or whatever, we want to get paid for that, right? So that's a big part of the claim anyway.
So back into the legal weeds, Suno's terms include the defend, indemnify, and hold harmless portion, right? And that's standard for a lot of contracts, as I understand it. Given that Suno's output infringes on several producers' copyrights, and I don't even think that's up for debate because Cash Money AP's tag, it's they're peeing on your leg and calling it rain, and that's just not going to fly. It's very clear. Does that make this statement in their terms of service really legally valid in the sense that they're innocent when they're the ones that built a system that's clearly infringing on people's copyrights? Can they just put that little piece in there and say, we're not responsible, and if you use our service, we can break whatever laws and we're clean, our hands are clean?
Yeah, well, that's what they're going to say, right? And that's why we're taking an issue with some of these terms of services just being super unreasonable. Now, are they even enforceable? And that's something some people don't know. They just are like, oh, it's in the contract. They're telling me I can't do anything. So then they stop. And what they don't know is that depending on where you live, the laws are different, from state to state. But sometimes there are laws that say that language in contracts will not hold. And so you can overcome it. Anyway, setting that aside, in a practical situation, you release a song and, it has something that sounds like a sample or is imitating, and so therefore you get a claim for copyright infringement as a producer, as a music creator. And so what you're saying is practically, I can't now go back to Suno and be like, hey, I got sued by Universal and they're claiming copyright infringement. So now it's a whole bunch of stuff, which is, I didn't even make the song. I put in prompts. And if you can't sue me, you have to go to them. So practically speaking, what are we supposed to do here? And we haven't had cases of where that's happened, but it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. It's coming down the pipeline. And then to go back to something that you mentioned earlier, which was fair use, and that's your defense for discussing TOS on your streams. And in that case, you are, I think, legally allowed to do that because fair use has specific tenets, and one of them is to educate. So when I was teaching, I could copy a page from a Steinbeck novel, and I'm not going to get sued for that because I'm a teacher and I'm using those materials for my class. A lot of producers misunderstand that to mean that, if I'm learning about music, I can sample a Rick James song. And it's like, no, you can't just sample a beat or someone else's music and then make a beat out of it and then sell it and claim it's fair use. You have to clear that sample. That's what these AI and a lot of the AI fanboys are claiming as a defense for what's happening with Suno, that it's fair use somehow. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand how it could be deemed fair use when you're training on copyrighted materials. They'll say, well, it's transformative, but the issue is it's for commercial purposes because, I could pay money to their subscription services and still get output that infringes on someone's copyright. I could still output a beat with Honorable C Note's tag in it. So if I drop that song, Honorable C Note's legal team comes after me and I'm in trouble. So how is that fair use? How are they invoking that as a defense? Yeah,
so where we had a little bit of we'll call it a misstep. So the major labels that are suing the music AI companies in the complaints, they cited to letters that were sent from the music AI companies. Okay, so the legal team, basically, when they got the cease and desist, they came back and they go, it's fair use. And kind of the reason why that's a misstep is because if you say it's fair use, then you're acknowledging that there's a copyright potential claim. So they probably shouldn't have said that, right? If they're like, no, we didn't train off of your stuff. That's what they should have said if that's the truth, right? But, fair use is a defense. So it means it's not like a license. It's not like something that just exists. It's if you claim there is a copyright infringement issue, you go, even though I use your copyrighted stuff, it's okay because that's fair use. And then fair use under the Copyright Act, there's, 4 factors. But the biggest ones that we look at and courts look at is like the nature of the use. What was it for? How much of it did you use? Did you use the littlest amount possible? Or did you like, hey, I want to talk about feature films, and then you just copied and pasted the whole film into your thing? Or did you use a little piece? And then also the impact on the market. So what's kind of getting claimed here is like, even if it was fair use, which it's not, because the nature of it is for commercial purposes, you're allowing your users to make stuff to make money, and you're making money because you pay people or have people pay you. How much you're using like the whole thing, from what we understand, right, to train your AI. What's the impact on the marketplace? Well, the impact is that you are making replicas of our stuff, and now the new stuff is going to drown out our stuff that's making money and it's not going to make money anymore. So that's an oversimplified way of, that's the issue.
What do you think the label's end game is? Because I don't, the RIAA is the one heading the suit, and they're profit driven. They don't represent me. They don't represent Cash Money AP. They don't represent Honorable C. Now, these are the people whose intellectual property is being infringed on. They're representing their own interests as the owners of these massive catalogs of sound recordings. So what's your prediction?
Yeah, first of all, good point. And I like to point that out too, when they're like, Universal goes, we've had cases, for example, when they were fighting with TikTok, and they're like, hey, our deal with you is up, and you're not paying us enough money, and so we're going to take all of our music off. And they did, right? So they weren't bluffing. And then they ended up coming back together later, and they did a deal and all this stuff. But, I was kind of laughing at that point, because what Universal was saying, they're like, we're for the artists, and we're here fighting the good fight. I'm like, what are you talking about? You want to make sure you get paid on the music that you own. I don't even have a problem with that. But don't say you're, like, doing this for your artists. Anyway. But, as far as the where this is going, we can't even say we are concerned from the label standpoint. I think labels want to get paid, and I think concurrently they're developing their own music AI that does similar stuff. So now is this they're trying to take down the competitors because there's going to be this insane judgment? Because, under the law, if you are able to claim statutory damages, it's different than like, oh, they made this money and I want them to pay me. Statutory damages are set by the law, and it says every copyright infringement, you can get up to $150,000, up to $150,000 per infringement. So if, we have a list from these labels saying here's thousands of times we've identified, it's 150,000 times all that. So, this is like a put them out of business kind of judgment. Yeah,
or force them to sign up for our agenda kind of judgment. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but there is a partnership ongoing for a generative AI platform between the labels and Google right now. And I believe Selena Gomez has licensed her voice. The rapper Papoose, of all people, has licensed his voice. A couple others.
I think
Charlie
Grime has been one of the earliest to just be like, I'm game, do it, you know, whatever.
Yeah, but this is in the context. Grimes was doing it kind of independently, whereas this is now within the context of a label partnership with a tech giant.